Let's break this thing down and tell people what we really think is going to happen with Cyberpunk and whether it's really going to grow their channel. You ready to do this, buddy?
Yeah, well, let's just start right there. What do you really think is going to happen with Cyberpunk?
I want to take a look at the numbers so everybody can see. Ross, if you could go ahead, and this is a training for everybody who uses Google Trends. Go ahead and select, instead of web search, select YouTube search so we can see how much interest there is specifically on YouTube. And let's go ahead and take a look at a 5-year timeline. Actually, roll it back as far back as it'll go, 2008 to present. What we have to do is compare Cyberpunk 2077 to previous games that are similar to Cyberpunk 2077 in terms of YouTube growth. As you can see, Grand Theft Auto 5 had a mega spike there with that yellow line in the past. And then the red line that you see with the mega spike is Red Dead Redemption 2 when it launched. So the question is, can Cyberpunk 2077 achieve the level of YouTube search interest of these titles that are most similar to it? And then after launch, is it going to see the massive decline after the mega spike at launch? Now, if I am going to speculate, I think it's going to land somewhere between Red Dead Redemption 2's launch. There are some not so impressive numbers when it comes to Cyberpunk when you compare it to Red Dead, right?
A firm called M Science, they do data analytics. They were comparing like from the date of the release where we are now. So from, for example, Red Dead Redemption 2 comparable time at pre-launch had 31% more pre-orders than what Cyberpunk does. I think that's pretty noteworthy, especially because I think everybody kind of expected Cyberpunk to be one of the biggest games in the past decade, and seeing it kind of come in where it's like, okay, well, it's not going to do as good as Red Dead Redemption 2, but I also think that we have to give credit to where credit's due on how freaking amazing Red Dead Redemption 2 is.
Single player games don't grow channels. There's like maybe 1 or 2 channels that can cover single player games on all of YouTube for your particular language. And then those YouTubers will cover, guides on all the equipment, guides on all the classes, updates as DLC comes out. They might even do multiple playthroughs with different challenges. And they often just run out of content to cover, because single player games don't have that much content to cover. And Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be no exception when it comes to the single player mode for the game. And we talked about this earlier, Ross. They are developing the multiplayer version of Cyberpunk separately as a completely separate game, not even launching in 2021. They haven't given us a date at all. It's 2022 at the very earliest. And so if we want to talk about what are the attributes of a game that grows YouTube channels, number one, it's multiplayer. So everybody out there who thinks that they're going to cover the single player version of Cyberpunk 2077 and blow up their YouTube channel, you're pretty much all wrong. You're just basically all wrong. The only content there is that's kind of unlimited, if you will, is the lore space for a single player game. Because you can dive in on that lore, you can do fan fiction, you can do theories, you can guess what's going to happen in the upcoming DLC, and you can kind of extract all of the lore of that universe, including Cyberpunk lore from the tabletop game, from the comics, from the game itself, and you can do a ton of lore content. But as far as gameplay content is concerned, there's not much to do. If the game isn't multiplayer, but it has modding, then you can have an unlimited, essentially, amount of content to cover on your YouTube channel. It's all about how much content can you make about the game, and the more content you can make about the game, the better the odds are that you can be successful with the YouTube channel with it.